Rob Warne, a star of 90 Day Fiancé, has been diagnosed with cancer and is currently hospitalized in severe condition. Rob Warne, prominent figure from the reality series 90 Day Fiancé, is presently hospitalized due to cancer. Physicians have indicated that his health is quite severe. Rob's spouse, Sophie Sierra, is profoundly anxious and distraught. Medical professionals have indicated that Rob's condition may deteriorate without prompt advanced therapy. Experts have conveyed confidence regarding his potential recovery with appropriate therapy. Adherents and supporters are beseeching for the Lord's swift recuperation. It was anticipated to be the most joyous period of their existence. Following the tumultuous courtship aired on reality television, Rob Warne and Sophie had ultimately established their harmony as a married couple. Their days were characterized by laughing, late-night takeaway, and aspirations for a future replete with travel, family, and stability. However, one morning, everything transformed. Rob had been experiencing malaise for weeks, fatigue, lethargy, and an unusual chest ache that he attributed to stress. However, Sophie sensed that something was off. "You are not merely fatigued, Rob," she asserted one evening, her eyes brimming with concern. "We must visit the physician." Rob acquiesced with reluctance. A series of scans evolved into an extensive array of testing, culminating in discreet conversations among physicians and a harrowing ultimate diagnosis: stage 4 lymphoma. Oncology. The word struck with the force of a thunderclap. Rob was hospitalized within days. His situation was more severe than anticipated. The physicians appeared somber as they conveyed that prompt, intensive intervention was his sole opportunity for survival. Sophie remained in shocked silence, clutching Rob's hand as though her grasp might keep him whole. "I am not prepared to part from you," Rob said that night, tears cascading down his cheeks. "We have scarcely commenced our existence." Sophie was devastated, but not defeated. "Then engage in combat," she declared vehemently. "I will accompany you at every moment." The news disseminated rapidly, proliferating over social media platforms. Supporters were astonished and devastated. Expressions of affection inundated from across the globe. Each day, Sophie recited letters from admirers, anticipating that their sentiments would bolster Rob's fortitude. She adorned his hospital room with fairy lights, displayed photographs of his wedding, and introduced his preferred delicacies, despite his inability to consume them. The conflict was savage. Chemotherapy severely damaged Rob's body. On several evenings, Sophie observed him oscillating between consciousness and unconsciousness, imploring a deity in whom her faith had waned. However, there were instances of optimism as well. Instances when Rob would smile, make a jest, or grasp her hand with unexpected vigor. Subsequently, one morning, Rob experienced a crash. Machines emitted erratic beeps, nurses hurried in, and Sophie was extracted from the room. Time elapsed. She remained seated in the hallway, enveloped in a blanket, unwilling to budge. A physician eventually appeared, perspiration on his forehead. "He is stable at present. It is time to contemplate his transfer to a more advanced facility," he stated. Sophie had no hesitation. She initiated a fundraising that rapidly gained viral traction, accumulating almost $500,000. Contributions were made by celebrities, past co-stars, and acquaintances. Rob was sent to a premier cancer institute in Houston using the cash. Several weeks elapsed. The therapies persisted. Gradually, remarkably, Rob commenced his recovery. Upon regaining consciousness, Rob observed Sophie slumbering in a chair adjacent to his bed. Her hair was disheveled, her eyes puffy, yet she appeared serene. He extended his hand and made contact with hers. She awakened, startled, and then beheld his smile. "You have returned," she said, her voice quavering. "I have never departed," he stated gently. "I became disoriented for a period." Nonetheless, the evening in Los Angeles was tranquil. Filming commenced for another episode of 90 Day Fiancé, and emotions escalated in the apartment of Rob Warne and Sophie Sierra. The couple, formerly perceived as linked despite their cultural and emotional disparities, now occupied opposite ends of the couch, silent, tense, and fractured. Sophie discovered the messages. Earlier that day, as Rob was walking, Sophie's curiosity and increasing suspicions prompted her to examine his iPad. What she discovered devastated her. A multitude of texts containing amorous implications, some overtly explicit, directed at women he had never encountered in person. Entirely digital, all conducted covertly. Upon Rob's return, the atmosphere in the room had changed. He promptly observed the open tablet, Sophie's quivering hands, and the expression in her eyes. "Rob," she inquired, her voice trembling, "what is this?" He became immobile. The producers inquired whether they could continue filming. Sophie acquiesced. Rob positioned himself opposite her, his gaze laden with remorse. "Sophie, allow me to elucidate." "Could you elucidate?" "You have been conversing with various women online for months, while I have been endeavoring to construct a life with you," she retorted, tears cascading down her cheeks. Rob inhaled deeply. "I did not encounter anyone. I did not engage in physical infidelity. Indeed, I engaged in conversations with ladies online. I became ensnared in it. It was foolish, it was egocentric, and I despise myself for it." Sophie gazed at him, her heart pounding. "What is the reason? What is the purpose of undertaking this action?" He averted his gaze momentarily before returning his attention to her. "Due to my feelings of insecurity. Because I perceive myself as inadequate for you. You are exquisite, self-assured, and originate from a whole distinct realm. At times, I sense that you were perpetually on the verge of departure. During our disputes, I merely sought affirmation. I was not seeking love. I was seeking affirmation of my significance." Sophie was astonished. Her wrath began to intertwine with perplexity and anguish. "You are significant to me," she said. "I am aware," Rob stated, tears welling in his eyes. "I discarded that for a trivial enhancement of my ego. I failed to consider the ramifications. I never intended to cause you pain." A prolonged hush ensued. The makers refrained from omitting the sequence. Ultimately, Sophie articulated her thoughts. "I am astonished that you executed this. I relinquish my life in the UK for you. I place my trust in you." Rob approached. "I implore you, Sophie. Allow me to regain your faith. I will take any necessary actions. Psychotherapy. Clarity. Ceasing all social media activities. I wish to retain your presence." She gazed downward, uncertain. During her confessional interview subsequently, Sophie acknowledged, "A portion of me desires to depart and never reflect upon it again." However, the other aspect, the one that continues to harbor affection for Rob, questions if individuals are capable of genuine transformation. The episode concluded with a cliffhanger. Will Sophie grant him another opportunity? Fans worldwide awaited with eager anticipation. Nonetheless, weeks had elapsed since the cessation of filming, yet for Rob Warne and Sophie Sierra, the turmoil persisted. Sophie sat quietly on the couch in their Los Angeles apartment, her hands anxiously fluttering in her lap. The atmosphere in the room was laden with tension. She had meticulously rehearsed her remarks repeatedly in her mind, yet nothing could adequately prepare her for Rob's reaction. "I must convey something to you, Rob," she stated gently. Rob looked up from his phone, perceiving the gravity in her tone. "What is it?" "I have concealed a portion of my identity," she said, her voice quavering. "Prior to my arrival in the U.S., I was acutely aware that something was distinct. I have never been entirely truthful, either with you or with myself. I identify as bisexual, Rob." The words hung in the atmosphere like dense fog. Rob's countenance became immobile. He squinted, uncertain whether he had comprehended her accurately. "Who are you?" he reiterated, his tone incisive. Sophie acquiesced, her eyes glistening. "I was uncertain about how to convey this to you. I was uncertain about your reaction. However, I saw the necessity of living authentically, regardless of the challenges it may present." Rob reclined on the couch, astonished. "What implications does this hold for us, Sophie? Are you implying that you wish to abandon me for another woman? Was I merely an experiment to you?" "No," she retorted swiftly. "This does not alter my feelings for you. I hold deep affection for you, Rob. I selected you. However, Rob was unable to dispel the thoughts inundating his consciousness. Insecurity enveloped him with a suffocating intensity. What basis do I have for believing that? You concealed this from me all along. What further information are you concealing? How do I ascertain that you do not desire something beyond my capacity to provide? Tears commenced cascading down Sophie's visage. That is not the focus. I am not lacking with you. I disclose this information to you due of my faith in you. I wish for you to understand my true self. Rob rose and began to pace the room. Do you have confidence in me? Why did it require such an extended duration for you to be truthful? Why, after cohabiting and experiencing everything together, does this occur? I perceive that I have been deceived. Sophie dried her tears and rose as well. I was frightened, Rob. Fearful of your potential absence. Fearful that you would perceive me in an altered manner. And now it is occurring. A prolonged hush ensued. Rob gazed at her, his eyes reflecting a blend of pain and bewilderment. I am not upset by your bisexuality, Sophie. I am distressed that you doubted my capability to manage it. You believed I would not love you if I were aware. I erred in concealing it from you, she acknowledged. However, my emotions for you have consistently been genuine. I wish for this not to fracture our relationship. Rob resumed his seat, inhaling profoundly. I require time. Duration for processing. I am uncertain about the implications of this situation for us at present. Sophie acquiesced. I will provide you with space. However, I remain present, Rob. I continue to select you. Rob sat solitary on the beach, observing the waves collide with the coastline. He held a photograph of himself and Sophie, captured on the day of their engagement. He recalled the profound affection seen in her eyes that day. Perhaps love is not defined by perfection or assurance. Perhaps it involved the continual selection of one another, despite challenges and the complexities of the journey. He retrieved his phone and sent her a text message. Nonetheless, Rob Warne remained silent in his Los Angeles flat, the blue light from his phone illuminating his nervous visage. His fiancée, Sophie Sierra, had just exited to get a call from her mother in the UK. Everything appeared flawless externally. A fashionable couple on a successful reality program, strategizing their future. However, beneath the surface of the cameras and meticulously arranged Instagram images, turmoil was developing. For months, Sophie had perceived an anomaly. Rob had become estranged. He ceased to remain awake late discussing wedding arrangements. Instead, he was perpetually occupied or fixated on his phone. One night, as Rob slumbered, Sophie's curiosity transformed into mistrust. His phone vibrated with a message alert. Last night was exhilarating. When can we replicate the experience? Her heart sank. She discreetly opened his phone using the password she had committed to memory long ago. What she saw was devastating: flirty direct messages, suggestive images, and video conversations with other women Rob had encountered online. Certain discussions date back to prior to Sophie's relocation to the US. Nonetheless, the most distressing aspect? A considerable number were recent. The following morning, Sophie approached him. Rob, please disclose the truth. Who are these women? What activities have you engaged in without my knowledge? Rob became immobilized, his complexion paling. Sophie, it was inconsequential. Merely messages. I never encountered anyone in person. It was foolish, an error. A mistake, she exclaimed, brandishing the screenshots. You referred to them as baby. You expressed your love for them. You sent them various items. This was not merely texting, Rob. You engaged in infidelity, emotionally, mentally, and possibly even physically. Rob attempted to grasp her hand, but Sophie withdrew. Her voice quivered. I abandoned my family, my existence, my homeland for you. And this is the outcome? She wept as she packed her things. The cameras, perpetually present, recorded every agonizing moment. The makers of TLC attempted to afford the couple privacy, however the harm had already become public knowledge. Sophie resided at a motel for 1 week. The tabloids proliferated sensational headlines. Rob Warne discovered engaging in online cheating. Sophie Sierra heartbroken. Is the 90-day fiancé couple parting ways permanently? Concurrently, Rob endeavored to rectify the harm. Apologies, presents, and therapeutic sessions. He issued a public apology on social media. I wounded the individual who cared for me the most. I accept all accountability. I apologize, Sophie. Supporters were polarized. Some criticized Rob for his conduct. Some contended that he warranted a second opportunity. Following a fortnight, Sophie consented to rendezvous with him at a tranquil park. Prohibition of cameras. Only them. I require clarification on one matter, she stated. What motivated your actions? Rob gazed downward. I suppose I was apprehensive. Apprehensive about my adequacy for you, about commitment, and about making mistakes. Ironically, I made mistakes regardless. Sophie was silent for an extended duration. I do not harbor animosity towards you, Rob. However, I lack trust in you as well. And in the absence of trust, what remains? She rose, bestowed a kiss upon his cheek, and departed. The narrative concluded not with a dramatic explosion, but with a subdued grief. Sophie returned to London some weeks later. Rob remained in Los Angeles, solitary with his remorse. The season finale was broadcast with a dramatic subtitle. Nonetheless, 6 months had elapsed since Sophie relocated from the UK to Los Angeles to join Rob. Initially, everything appeared dreamlike. The beaches, the sunlight, and, above all, awakening beside the guy she believed to be her soulmate. However, with the passage of time, fissures began to manifest. Not within the city, but in Rob. Sophie perched on the bed's edge, gazing at her phone. Her fingers quivered as she perused the message that Sierra, a friend from her hometown, had just dispatched. Are you certain that Rob is being truthful with you? A screenshot was attached, depicting Rob and commenting on flirtatious images of several girls on Instagram. Once more, Sophie had already confronted him. 1 time, 2 times, thrice. Each time, Rob offered her the same endearing grin, accompanied by an apology that appeared increasingly scripted. It held no significance, darling. I was merely being courteous. However, Sophie felt uncertain about the meaning of nice any longer. Was nice intended to keep you awake at 2 a.m.? Inquiring whether your partner was conversing with unfamiliar individuals? Was nice intended to render you invisible in your own relationship? Later that evening, Rob returned home, whistling as if everything was fine. He pressed his lips to her forehead and flung his keys onto the table. Hello, sophomore. What is the dinner menu? She gazed at him, her eyes obscured by sorrow. A discussion is necessary. Rob exhaled audibly, already anticipating the direction of the conversation. Once more. Sophie, I informed you. I am aware of what you conveyed, she interjected, rising to her feet. Your statements and behaviors are incongruent. I did not traverse the world to be deceived. He appeared exasperated. Do you trust a screenshot more than my word? Above us? Sophie halted. Her heart yearned to trust him, desired to believe that their affection could overcome this challenge. However, what about her intellect? Her intellect urged her to depart before she had lost her identity. I am uncertain about what to believe now, she stated quietly. I am torn between the individual I fell in love with and the individual who continually undermines my trust. A prolonged hush ensued, the type that occupied every nook of the apartment. Rob observed her intently, perhaps for the first time in weeks. Subsequently, he remained silent for the first time. That evening, Sophie assembled a compact bag. Not due to her certainty of departing permanently. However, she required distance. It is time to contemplate, to inhale. The Los Angeles night was temperate. However, internally, her heart was enveloped in uncertainty. She entered the darkness, unsure of her destination. However, one fact was evident. Sophie was ultimately prioritizing herself. Greetings, esteemed viewers. Welcome to my channel. I am Amelia, and I hope your day is going splendidly. If you like the video, please remember to subscribe to the channel.